Ah, there you are. Oh wait, that's not my line. Anyway, hey there. Today we're going to do something that I have not really done before. We're going to cover an ink that is pink. For some reason, a lot of men have some issues with using pink inks. I have Rose Tendresse here by Herbin. I've got one of those little Herbin sample bottles. This is a pink ink. And I mean, I know that people use this. I know that men use this, but sometimes for men it's a little bit of a threshold to cross to actually use a pink ink, and don't actually. I mean, I know a lot of you guys out there know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's cool to use all kinds of colors, but pink is just a little bit feminine, and we don't generally do that. Some of us, at least. I was one of them, and I'm not exactly a macho. So. But anyway, I thought that sometimes you should just do something and just dash in headlong. So I'd only used this once. I mean, the ink that's out of here, that's just all Inkcyclopedia. So this was pretty much unopened. I thought I would just go for it and see where I'd end up. So today we'll have a look at this. It's pink, it's ink, and it goes into your fountain pen. And that's all there's to it. So I hope this is going to be useful. And I'll see you later. Bye bye. Alright, so here we go with Herbin Rose Tendresse Tender Rose. Start with a bit of fine writing, how about that? That was a tight fit. That means that with broader nibs it's going to be more difficult to fit that in there, but I'm going to do my best. Then we have a medium. Well, it's a pink ink. Broad. I just love this nice juicy broad lamy nib. Then an italic. Parsons Essential, very nice pen, very special pen. And then finally we should have some flexi writing. Got some railroading there, but I was going very fast. I think if you go slower... a bit faster than that though. You can get a decent ink flow going. I'm not going to finish the whole sentence just for time reasons. And then we should do some passes Well, 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 if that isn't pink. Oh, you know what? Let me just... Right, a fat letter here. What shall we do? I have an idea. L for love. Alright, then we should do some medium writing. Well, well, U-M. Writing. Okay. How are we doing here? It's almost dry, that's not bad. Maybe while we are waiting we can have a look at that moment that I know many of you have been waiting for. The Tardis Test. And how are we doing here? Well, it's still a bit wet. That's not too bad. Third pass, well that is second pass. You can't do a third pass before you've had a second pass, you know. There we go. And now we have a small issue here because I want to do a brown benchmark, but this won't fit in there, so we're gonna have to see how I can make that work. Alright, a brown benchmark. That was pretty disappointing, but it's what I can do. My fingers are too large, I'm sorry. Okay, let's have a look at whether we can make any ink disappear there with the bastard brush. That looks good to me. The eyedropper of death. And if you don't awfully mind, I'm just going to take a second here to cap that. These are pretty small bottles and they get knocked over fairly easily. Alright, alright, alright. I think we can safely do a third pass there. There we go. Okay, then let's have us a bit of a scorecard and then we'll interpret some test results. How about that? Let's start with cleaning. Well, I haven't used this ink a whole lot, but in my recollection it was fairly easy to clean out. We have bleed through. It's more of a question, do we have bleed through? We'll have to see that later. We have color. Well, pink, I suppose. Shading, he sighed. You hear that? How much he's actually sighing. Shading. Well, I have to check out some stuff for that. Then we have flow. Well, in honesty, flow is good. I won't give it a full mark. You had some issues with the flex, which I didn't have with previous inks I tested recently, so it's not perfect, but it's okay. Then we have feathering. Well, feathering seems to be good right now, but let's check that out in copier paper too. Then we have drying time. Well, it's not a super fast drying ink, but it's not terrible either. And then we have waterproofness, and for that we need to interpret some test results. So what have we got? Let me see. Let me just grab a tissue, get rid of some of that excess water. There we go. Alright. So, what have we got? Shading. Well, there definitely is some shading. It's not perfect. It's not magnificent shading. It is there. I would say it's a middle score. So, as to shading, I'm going to give that 2 points. You see that here too, it goes from a very tender pink to something that is more cyclamen, I would say, but still very nice. As to, but that's also pretty much confirmed by the Tardis test, it goes from a very light purple to a much more intense, light pink to a much more intense pink. Brown benchmark also kind of shows that. I couldn't let go of the Scottish accent there, sorry. It also shows that. Then you have the water test. Well, as you can see, the water has really diluted the ink and has made it almost illegible, although I have seen worse. I've seen much better too. Same thing here with the large lettering. So waterproofness, it's just an average score. Feathering and bleed through we're going to have to check later, but now I first want to check some more paper, another type of paper, and that is just some cheap copier paper. Let's have a look at what we can do there. How about that? We start with a fine. Medium. Broad, and then then italic. And finally, let's just try some flex, which I already have the feeling is going to be quite difficult. Go slow without going too slow. It's like Zen, it's easy but it's not simple. Yeah, see, there we go. That nib isn't really aligned properly, but I'm just going to write William Shakespeare, if you don't mind. All of this was not Shakespeare, this was all just lines from a song. Seemed to fit the colour. Oh. This ink does not like a flex pen. Just squeezing some ink into the feed there. Yep. Okay. And then finally, a bit of broad writing. First letter of the alphabet. Oh, I'm losing my voice there. What about that? Still practicing my Gothic A. This is still a bit off. We'll work on that, don't worry. Okay. What does this tell us, huh? Brown benchmark. The revenge. There you go. Alright. What does this tell us? Well, I don't see a lot of feathering with normal writing. Although I do see a little bit of feathering. I'm just going to make this zoom in. There we go. Focus, focus, focus. No. Yes. No. Yes. Yes, there we go. I see a little bit of feathering in the B there. That is a broad nib, quite wet, and that's just some feather-inducing writing there. You know, I don't even have to zoom in to show you the feathering on the flex writing, but this is copier paper, but I mean, even so, I'm going to zoom in anyway. You see the issues there, right? And then of course there was the flow issue. I have inked up the pen the way I always do, so that's not it. Just the way it is. Hope I'm not making you sick. I'm trying to get the paper in focus. Okay. With this very broad writing, there is definitely some feathering going on at the very wet spots. And then with the brown benchmark, the extra brown benchmark, yeah, I don't really see a whole lot of feathering there. What about bleed through? Well, that's interesting. I mean, there's broad definitely bleeds through, a little bit of the medium, italic bits, flex is excessively bled through, and same goes for the very broad nib. What about this? Do we have any bleed through here? This is Rhodia paper where you see bleed through, even with Rhodia in the flex nib. 3 passes, but I mean that's an excessive amount of ink, so that's not strange. With the other test, brown benchmark a bit, but I mean that's a lot of ink too. So in principle, again, this is a matter of the specific paper you use, as always. But still, bleed through, I'm going to give that a 2. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I find this quite severe. I'm going to give that a 3. Bleed through. Here you go. Okay, and then feathering, well, there was nothing on the Rhodia. There's a bit with the flex writing. No, it's not an ink that does not feather, but it's not that terrible either. Okay, inkage 1, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then finally, I would like to give you an ink comparison. And now I have to use that bloody flex nib again, which is driving me nuts. But I'll do so anyway, just because I love you guys. Flex, and what we have is here is Herbin. Maybe I shouldn't push it that hard. So Herbin Rose Tendresse. We have some flex stuff, we have some coloring going, we have a bit of line variation. Okay, now I don't have that many inks in this specific palette, but what I do have is flex with Herbin. This is probably my preferred. If I have to use a color in this spectrum, it's usually this. This is another Herbin ink, and this is Rose Cyclamant, which is a very nice ink, good flow. It's a bit darker than the Rose Tendresse, makes it a little bit easier to read, probably also makes it a little bit less romantic, if you're looking for that kind of stuff, for love letters or whatever. But yeah, I do really like that ink. Has some very nice shading too, and it's one of my favorite Herbin inks. So, there you have it. Inkcyclopedia entry for a pink ink Herbin Rose Tendresse. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.